This week and for the following 5 days, we're going to be just looking in our churchyard at stories of those who are involved in the medical profession in their lifetime. And we're doing this intentionally because I want it as a way to honour and us to focus and think about the extraordinary bravery and hard decisions and dedication that doctors have made throughout the ages. I want to do that in honour of the present, all who work in the medical services now, whether it be doctors or nurses or care home assistants. I want to do something for us to remember and to think about them. And we're in that section of the churchyard that was from about 1850 to about 1920. And very next to the road, we're not at the grave because the road is too noisy, but we're at a grave that is almost identical to the one which I'm talking about. And the point about it is it's completely simple. There's no memorial, but on the side of this particular grave by the road, it just says Dr. Paul Chapuis, died 1928. And Dr. Paul Chapuis was the medical officer in charge, responsible for all the medical facilities on the island from about 1888 for about 30 years. Just before he died, he retired. So on his broad shoulders was the medical health of our island. And it was a time when there, of course, was no antibiotics. The average age in 1907 for life of a man was 44 years and of a woman 48 years. Very different to today. And there was a health report just 13 years ago, 2007, which referred in detail to Paul Chapuis, Dr. Paul Chapuis' report from 100 years earlier, talking about how difficult it was doing medical procedures and protecting the population with so many lethal, infectious diseases around. And he was medical officer in 1918, October, November, when the terrible Spanish flu hit Europe. And he made it clear at the time it was only a 30-day period apparently. There was 30 days of when suddenly this terrible flu came on our island, and literally hundreds and hundreds of people contracted it in a very short time. And his report of the time said our medical facilities were completely swamped, and a doctor would get a note. Obviously in those days people have to come by horse and cart, knock on the doctor's door, say please go to that house. Time and time again, by the time the doctors even got to the house, the person who was ill had died. And to put this in perspective, in this churchyard alone we have the burial books, and at that time in 1918 there was about 2,000 people living in St Saviour's only, and about on average 4 people were buried in this churchyard a month. Remember, there was no crematorium in those days. About 4 were buried here a month, fewer in the summer, a bit more in the winter. And then suddenly in that just over 30-day period from mid-October to near the end of November, in this churchyard alone there were 42 deaths and burials. And the last 28 of those 42 burials, the average age was 26. As I think of those statistics and those events, it reminds me how much we are to be thankful the way our dedicated medical services today are trying to preserve life, and also the huge responsibility on those hospital administrators, like today, those who are working out where staff should be put, how the wards should be, having the Nightingale Hospital built and so on. Such major responsibility for our health. And Dr. Paul Chapuis, buried not 50 metres from where we're standing in this part of the churchyard, reminds me of that.